Welcome to the Soul Wisdom Project, the living blueprint of the soul. With me, Shakti Bottazzi, your host. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by your daily life as if something inside you is trying to get your attention? As an international teacher, shaman, and energy healer, I will bring the tools of a lifetime to guide you to explore how to live consciously, awaken your innate wisdom, integrating the design, development, and emergence of your divine blueprint. Each episode blends grounded conversation with multidimensional insight, guiding you to release old patterns, align with your higher intelligence, and live awake, aware, and fully present. The Soul Wisdom Project with me, Shakti Bottazzi, starts now. Welcome to this amazingly huge, energetic day, which, as we are recording, is the 17th of February of the year 2026. A whole reset for humanity as the horse of fire enters with the Chinese New Year, as we have a beautiful new moon, a dark moon, and an eclipse that's going to be seen only in the South Pole, using that ice from the South Pole to irradiate those codes onto every single corner of this round earth. And it's a beautiful activation energy. So I'm inviting you wherever and whenever you listen to this episode in the now moment to take in these energies that are always going to be present as this energetic reset, this ignition that it's happening today. And today's episode is When Pushing No Longer Works. This is something that I've experienced personally after 40 years in this path. It's not theory. It's really a moment that happens to almost all of us, and especially in this time of humanity. We're being called to really align and to understand where we're meant to go, and that's why pushing no longer works. But there's so many more layers to this that I've invited my beautiful, beloved soul sister, an amazing woman and guide on her own, this Darieth Chisolm. And Darieth, beyond being this amazing woman that I love, she's also a mystic and sacred storyteller. She's the author of Awakening the Prosperous Human, where she explores what it means to live from coherence after awakening. And she brings a rare blend of depth and grounding, shaped by more than 30 years as an Emmy Award, people, winning television journalist and storyteller before stepping fully into this work. So I love her perspective about prosperity. It's super aligned with my own coherence, embodied presence, all things we talk in this show. She's totally in it with us, and I would love to hear what you have to say, Darieth. Welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Oh, what a special day to be here with you, my dear sister Shakti. Thank you so much for inviting me. And hello to everyone. And happy Chinese New Year. Fire horses out the gate and galloping right ahead.
Yeah, and I've been feeling and sharing how, when we have an electricity surge that comes after a blackout, how the electricity is not stable when it comes. It's kind of like the lights go yellow and then they go white, and then you have that kind of not stable electricity. And this is also happening now. This is a humongous reset for all of humanity. It's 60 years since the last horse of fire, but we're in 3 days entering a cycle that is 6,400 years since the last time it happened. In 3 days, in 6,400 years is a blink. So we're literally already in that wave. And I want to start by putting you in the center of attention, Darieth, and asking you, you went from a very visible public life into this work, and it connects directly to everything we're about to explore together. So I'd like you to tell me, how did the doors open for you in terms of shifting from the path in which you were and when pushing no longer worked, and how you shared with me that the more effort you put, things were not working, and how that was disorienting. Would you share a little bit about that for all of us to to learn more about your own experience?
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that was occurring the entire time is what's happening to me, and that can feel very unsettling for someone, because maybe I awakened in my last lifetime, but I don't remember that. And so this process, I would think for all of us is new, and it really requires us to open and explore and be patient and kind and generous and loving with ourselves, because it's an entire it's a process for which I would say most of us are experiencing, perhaps in our current incarnation, that we are really looking to ground and settle in. And for me, the way it occurred many years ago. In fact, I always think that we're always on our path, no matter what. But the path to
Great.
awakening creates a more deeper, richer path, with the confusion that I just mentioned. Mine started over 10 years ago. I had left a very public television news career as a television news anchor in Pittsburgh, and wrote a book and started coaching women on public speaking and storytelling, and got a divorce, and left a multi-million dollar home and a very successful career, a very public career, loving what I did, but I knew there was something calling me. And so I jumped. I made a great big jump, left a very successful television career, wrote the book, began a divorce, fell in love with someone, went into another country, and all my life began to collapse. And I won't share all of that story because that takes us down another path.
Yeah.
Suffice to say that what I discovered about myself in a 3-year journey to support others who were challenged and hurting was to shift and look at, if hurt people are hurting, where are the healers? And how do
Yeah.
we heal ourselves, and how do we heal others? So, as much as I was advocating for victims of cyberbullying and the pain that they were in, what I wanted more than anything was to get out of my own pain and to assist people in some way. But there was no way I could do that without me having to go on my own journey. So that put me on a good 10-year exploration into everything mystical and profound and spiritual, as well as heart brain coherence and quantum physics and plant medicine. You name it, I feel like I've had some experience with it. But I knew that what was important for me was to discover what is life really calling of me? Who am I? What am I doing? What is my purpose? And why are we all here? I'm so happy to say that while I'm sure this journey is going to continue to unfold and expand in different ways, the sense of really coming to understand yourself and regulating your nervous system and understanding the power of coherence and the power of now, I think is like one of the most important things that is paramount for us really navigating the sometimes challenging awakening experience. Yes, it is blissful and peaceful and loving and fun and synchronistic, but the human has got some catching up to do. And when we are coherent, I think it allows us to settle in.
I agree. And everything you shared is potent and powerful. And it has a lot to do where we are today. And I want to ask you to go a moment before that, because that's where many of our listeners are at. They are in the moment of disorientation, in the moment in which you shared you made all those changes. But the moment before those changes that you just shared, the moment where you have a successful career, you have abundance, everything seems shining and being amazing, and yet what's happening? What's happening there that's not really working? If you can talk to that moment for you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and thanks for asking that, because you're right. It's like we hurry past that, and that was really fundamental for me getting into an experience that cracked me wide open. But it was the moments before that, and where I was literally like where is there more to life than the everyday hustle of building a very successful television news career, building multiple businesses, focusing on money? It was as if I had those experiences, but my soul wanted very much to come online. And I didn't know how to do that. Now, I had been reading books and meditating and affirmations, and I would like to say spending a great deal of time in what I would refer to as a fourth dimensional awareness, which is all wonderful because in that awareness, that's where the tools are. And you start to learn and you start to question and you start to process. And that's what literally, at that point, I said, I'm not happy in this marriage. Something needs to change. I'm really more lit up about writing this book and supporting people in living their highest and best lives. Let me quit this high paying television news anchor job. Like it was those thoughts that were coming in. The problem was how. And I think
Yeah.
that's where most people are, is that they want to make the leap and they want to make the jump. And you get so to the point where it's not even you that's leaping and jumping. It's your soul, your inner self, your higher self that is, at least in my case, saying, no, go that way, go that way. And yet for me, it was the fear. And so
Mm.
resistance is what I believe it is still on my path. And I have to remind myself every day that everything is possible, especially when I move out of resistance. But when we're in resistance, the things that we resist are much bigger. And then we don't allow ourselves to experience what's next. And when, back to that moment before you start to make some steps, is there's that fear of, is this going to work? Am I really doing this? And all along, it's about trusting yourself, trusting the process, and trusting the dream in your heart. And nobody, I mean, I believe I always knew that when I was building my TV career, but because I wasn't so sure what was to come here, all I could do was trust. And I'm happy I did because along the way, all of these beautiful magic and miracles and manifestations and new aspects of understanding myself and understanding others and understanding our soul. And uh, I believe what's occurring is in the letting go. Like it's not in the controlling it all. It's in the
Yes.
trusting the process.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for that share. So here we are talking about the moment when life is giving you an alert, is knocking on your door in a way that makes you look up. And Darieth, thank you for sharing how that looked for you. And also this awareness that fear is there and resistance is there. And I know for many of you listening, this is what may be happening right now, because I know this is truth for many of us in this moment. So I want to invite you to take a breath here. If you're watching or listening and you recognize this moment, know that it's okay. You're going to find the way out, and we're going to keep giving you insights so you can recognize even better what may be happening for you in this moment, and what are some things that you can do about it. And on that note, if anything in this conversation opens something in you, I want to remind you that I have a free guide waiting for you. It's called the Living Your Soul Blueprint, and you can go to my website under the Soul Wisdom Project and download it from there. But it's also in the link to the description to this video right here live. And we're also inviting you to connect with us, to talk to us live here. We are able to read the messages you send us and to address them. And it would be a lot of fun to have this conversation with Darieth and you. So if you have something to say or something to ask, please do so. So back to what we were saying and back to what you were saying, Darieth, my own experience of that moment where pushing was no longer working was so frustrating because I had a lifetime of success on the traditional path. I excelled at school, I excelled in university, I excelled in every job I had. I gained a Fulbright scholarship to come to the US for the first time. I had a full scholarship in my university where I did my master's in business. I had this path where in the career path, I was always taken to the next level. And yes, it all required a lot of effort. That was one characteristic of my life. People used to call me, she is so tenacious. And one of the things that makes her good at what she does is that she keeps going in front of all of the obstacles and she ends where she needs to end. And I thought that living in a life where everything was hard to get was the way to live because I would get what I was set up myself to get, but at a high cost. At what a high cost. And then suddenly doing that effort or efforting, which is an invented word that I love, using that push pull energy that had always gotten me where I wanted to go, stopped working. Things were not working anymore. And most importantly, I was deeply unhappy and deeply unfulfilled. And literally, I was traveling for business. I had a very high job. I was responsible for Southern Europe and Middle East for a multinational corporation. I was in, top star hotels all the time. And I was crying myself to sleep every night. And I was wondering what, how, why, which way to go. I just couldn't figure it out. But what I knew with certainty was that whatever was going on, whatever my life was at the moment, was not working. And I'd say that that is a key moment, right? The moment you described it too, while you were sharing with us, that moment where you weren't happy with your marriage, you weren't happy. This is a big indicator, right? The unhappiness, the moment where we hit that realization that whatever we're doing is not working. And it was working before, and that's why it's so confusing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had an incredible successful career as a visible woman, as an anchor woman, and you tell us what more. It was successful and visible. And suddenly what used to fulfill you and used to fill you with joy and yes, I'm on it, suddenly wasn't cutting it anymore.
Yeah. And you know what I believe part of this is for each of us to really consider that sometimes the portions of our lives that we're living, those chapters are complete.
Yeah.
And we we have this misconception that all things are supposed to last forever. And I don't really, I think that's part of how we set ourselves up is because when something begins to change, because everything is always changing, we want things to stay the same. And we're changing, and if we're talking about in a relationship, someone else is changing, things are changing. Your perspective is changing, you're growing. Some people continue to grow together, some people grow apart. It's that resistance. It's that inability to really look at what is and yes, go do the work, get counseling, pray, do whatever it is, to ensure that if it's not time to say goodbye, it's not time to say goodbye. But there are moments in our lives where that happens with everything, careers, people, our bodies. I mean, it's occurring. And so our ability to be in the flow and to allow the process of life to unfold I think is ultimately what the soul is looking to do. The human thinks, oh, I need to keep doing it this way. But the soul is like, wait a second, we're here for a grand ride. We could have 19 more chapters if you would just let go of this chapter. And that
I
frustration to me is what feels like the anxiety of letting go. Then comes well, what am I gonna do? What's next? I don't even know if this is right. Then there's the fear of stepping forward. So what do? We stay in paralysis, and that's painful there. That when we're analyzing things and we're afraid to move, we're afraid to let go, we're afraid. That is, I think, what creates a lot of the internal turmoil. I'll add one more point to that, and is that we're also and I know you speak a lot about dimensions. And so, we're in these physical 3D dimensions where, of course, we're here to play and have fun and taste and smell and move our bodies and be on this planet. But when our consciousness is in a dense 3D experience and the soul is trying to move beyond that, that also creates a tug of war.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to park that concept because I was going to address that in a moment. I think you packed so many gems in what you just shared, and I want to like come back to a few of them. And one of the things that I think helps all of us realize is what you just said. When I learned that change is the only constant, right? I was still fairly young, but it was kind of mind blowing. I know it's not as new of a concept in today's day and age. I'm in my 60s, and in my 20s, that was radical new information, right? Because life was a lot more constant. I remember my mother, who's 100, so that gives you a parameter of her time frame, used to tell me, "Oh, you have to find a job out of university, and that will be your career for the rest of your life in that corporation." That was the paradigm. Hello. Hello. So this is how it was. And today is what it is. I don't need to explain what we're living in. And there was a shift in between there and here that is enormous and super wobbly. And the other thing you mentioned is fear. Oh my God. A friend of mine with whom I used to share my anguish and my disconcert, being disconcerted and confused. He told me one day, it's like, you are so afraid that you're afraid of your own fears. Yep, hello, this is me. I was there. I was afraid of my own fears.
I have been there, done that.
I was afraid of everything, everything. And that's why also I feel very potently and very truthfully and powerfully and deeply that to step forth courageously has nothing to do with not having fear. And I betcha, if you're listening, that there is a fear within you too. It's human nature. And if you don't have any fear, wow, please tell us your secret, because no matter how many thresholds I've been moving through, fear over here and there still comes and nags me. So it's just part of leaning into the next step without knowing what that will look like, which is what you were saying, Darieth. It's like, yeah, all of that. And now what? Right? And this is important too. No matter what are those fears, or actually, let's matter what are those fears because they bring you information. I don't want to discount them. I want to embrace them. I want to embrace those fears and ask them what information they're bringing you. Because one thing that I've learned, and sounds like you've learned because of what you just said, is that where there is resistance is most likely the higher purpose path. Because resistance is there because we know we're going to be asked to step up, rise up, stretch beyond our comfort zone. And that's where growth happens. Growth doesn't happen when we're staying all comfy in the old. And the good news is that eventually the comfortable zone becomes very uncomfortable. And that's so much for our own good, right? Because otherwise we would never move into the next stage step up leveling of our lives. And I do want to ask the listener to to in to identify within, where are you in this journey? Have you leaned into the fear many times? Have you moved beyond it many times? Where in that stage are you? And also to tell you, and also based on what Darius you're sharing and my own experience and many conversations you and I've had over tea and coffee and whatnot, is that wherever you are is the perfect place to be. You're not meant to be before or after, ahead or behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Here, listening to us, exactly where you need to be, because clearly there's codes and information that are reaching you through this beautiful exchange with you, Darius. Thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to have this time. And this takes me, yes, to that next conversation you intuited, the perfect segue. But before we go there, I want to invite the listeners to write us, to call us, to call in by messaging. And we're going to take in a moment a pause so that listeners have time to send us messages, and then we'll be right back. But before we take this break, I want to ask you, Darieth, if there's something you want to leave us with between before we come back for the break, then we can discuss.
You mean in terms of a thought that I'm in at this
Yes,
moment?
yes,
Yeah. Well, it is that every and anything is possible. There's never not an opportunity for us to explore any potential. And that when I remind myself of that, immediately it drops the sense of fear. Because what I'm fearing, and maybe some of the listeners can identify with this, is this sense of because I don't know and because I can't figure it out, and because I don't think it's for sure, and where am I going to get the money from and the resources and the
yes.
people and all of the things start to happen, that I think only induces more fear. And when we can remember that,
Hold on. Let's leave it with that thought. Let's take a break and
okay,
we'll come back with the nugget of that thought because that's the key thought. So we'll be right back.
Without Fear is a Chattanooga-based death doula practice helping individuals and families navigate end-of-life transitions with grace, courage, and compassion. Death doula Alexis provides emotional support, practical guidance, and space to explore life's deepest questions. Through grief support, workshops, and education, Without Fear is breaking the taboo around death and empowering people to embrace mortality as part of living fully. Visit withoutfeardoula.com to learn more and find a safe space for all things life, death, and the in-between.
We're leading in boardrooms and living rooms, in startups and schools, on stages and in silence. The Lead, Live, and Love Like a Woman trilogy is a bold, unapologetic book series for women who are done waiting for permission. Hi, I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and I didn't create this trilogy to teach women how to lead, live, or love. We are already doing that. We need your voices. Apply now to become a co-author and share your story in this powerful movement. Visit balancesymmetry.com.
And we are back. Welcome, Darieth, once again to this episode When Pushing No Longer Works. And you just left us with a little bit of a anticipatory thread, which is what happens when, yes, okay, we listened, we leaned into the fear, and we are telling yes to the universe. I'm going, but you have no idea how, when, what. So, what happens there? How it was your experience? Because I think it's important we share our own experience and then we bring the lesson. But, like, what happened to you when that was the moment?
it's always happening to me. It's happening right now. Like I've got like 5 projects in the air, and I'm like, oh. But
I
again,
know.
it's that whole thought of, now I've gotten myself to the place where I can slow down, get into stillness, and take a few deep breaths and just remember, while I don't have all the answers, I don't even need to know all the answers. I just need to know that there are lots of answers that exist. There's plenty of potentials and possibilities. And when I begin to do that, then what softens in my body is the sense of fear, because fear is such a powerful energy. And we talk a lot about coherence and nervous system, and we don't pay attention to that because we're in our heads about the fear, but the fear is also dropping into the body somatically, which is also creating in our electrical magnetic physical bodies an energy of such which attracts more things to be fearful of. And we live in an attraction-based universe, whether we're aware of it or not. And
Oh,
so
I agree.
if we're residing in a place of fear and we're focused on fear, we're going to get more things that show up to be afraid of or be in fear of. So part of that becomes, again, this great mystery of life. I mean, who can explain it, right? I mean, we're in it to explore it and to live it, and not to push the fear away, but to explore it. Why do I feel this way? what really is this about? Be with it for a moment and then shift your energy to a place where, okay, I may not know the answers, but I know it's a whole lot of possibilities out there and I'm open and available to receive them. I'm willing to allow them to come into my life. And, on a personal note, I remain in that state because I realize that everything in life is so fluid. And I've also come to realize that for me, it's not so much fear. I said this earlier. I can identify for myself that it's the energy of resistance, because that's a very powerful energy as well. And so I can get my head out of fear, but if my body is still, if the intelligence of the way that I'm projecting in the world is I'm in resistance, right? And you know what resistance feels like. It's rigid, it's tight. There's nothing that's going to flow. So this is this opportunity for us to always to just let go, to get out of resistance, to get out of our heads about certain things. And I said this earlier, to really trust the process, because the process is always working. It's never not, right?
Yeah. But as I hear you share, what I hear is Darieth, who has mastered this way of living. And it took, I'm sure, time to get there because I have the experience too. I think I can also relate to living life with a lot more trust and a lot of more awe about the magic of the adventure of life, knowing that it is not about things going perfectly. It's about me showing up and surfing the waves, whatever they may be. But it takes a process to get to this point. And what I do remember very clearly, because I went through many iterations of what I call the dark night of the soul, which is this process of I have no clue where to go from here. What I had is no longer working at all. And I have no clue what is the future like. And that moment is, as usual, a moment of void, a cosmic egg where life becomes a possibility. But it's super scary to be in that moment and also very painful, like you said, because as we are moving beyond what no longer works, there's a shedding that is absolutely necessary that we've all been speaking about in this year of the snake and this 9-year cycle, helping us shed all of that. And for us humans, attachment is a real thing. So shedding is not easy and oftentimes painful because we have attachment. Attachment meaning identification to whatever it is we're letting go. And so there's a breaking of our persona in a way, or a splitting, or a shaving, or I don't know if you have a better word, but there is a part of our persona, of our egoic persona, of our mask that we let go, so we become more in tune with who we are authentically and and what is our beautiful authentic essence, perfume of who we are. And that shedding and that traveling into that journey into that authenticity is scary because we're not familiar with that authenticity. It's been covered by all the conditioning that we got growing up, by family, school, all kinds of experiences. And it is the journey that takes us into being more fulfilled and more in tune with just allowing life and flowing and feeling the magic and the adventure. But the journey is not an easy one. And that moment of, I call it the liminal moment, the moment of I don't know where we go from here, is very destabilizing for many. And I have heard from lots of friends right now and lots of people in my community as a spiritual teacher, as a colleagues, a lot of us are going through that. I don't know how the next phase will show up. And I wanted to ask you, and I have two questions, one right now, and then we're going to talk about dimensions. I wanted to ask you if you have any tips or advice for anybody who is now going through this moment of, I don't know where to go from here. And I know that you have a gift that people can also get that can support them. Is in that, if you can share with us where people can find you and what is this a gift, and also to share your golden nugget about this, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting that you bring this up, and that's the reason why and am curating and stewarding a what I'm calling a field, a community called the Gathering Room. And it's a free community where we are having these kinds of conversations openly, safely, and in a sacred space that while there's no definite or right answer. I think what's important is for us to be able to explore and to share and to feel like you're not alone in these wild and fantastic experiences. So
Wow.
that's the gathering room, and the gathering room is I'm so excited because I've been in this space for some time and had a much and still have a beautiful smaller community called Soul Circle where I bring through my guides and channel. And what I had been being led to do was to create something where we can start with these conversations. And if it feels in support of someone to be in these smaller spaces, fantastic. So it's all available at Awakening the Prosperous Human, which is also the name of my new book that I'm writing. Awakening the
Congratulations.
Prosperous
That's
Human. Yeah,
exciting.
so excited about that. So you're welcome. And one of the things about the gathering room is it's not intended to replace whatever circles you're in or whatever work that you're doing, but it's literally just a grounding spot where we can cross connect, talk, explore, connect in with one another, share resources. And we may be talking about dimensions one day, and then we might be talking about Vedic astrology the next. So it's
Love
we're
it.
talking about eating certain foods and really how to balance our systems to what last mountain did you hike? So
I
it's
love it. I
really
love it.
about like creating a space where those of us who are identifying that we are awakening, which is what I call the prosperous human. We are awakening as prosperous humans. That we're there together. So it's awakeningtheprosperoushuman.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. And what can you tell us who are in a moment of liminality right now where we may feel unsteady without firm ground underneath? What is your advice? What can we do? Or, yeah, what's your advice?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a few things. One is I think we've all heard that meditate, right?
Meditate.
Meditate, breathe. Yes, continue to do that. Without a doubt. For myself, what I needed to do was to bring something that I could really bring myself back into my human physical body because I spend so much time in my heart chakra, throat, third eye, and crown. And so it was really like, what are some somatic practices and things that I can feel more steady and grounded in? And so I have a beautiful Kundalini yoga practice, sadhana every day, and meditation, breath work. Of course, I have crystals and tarot cards and feathers and all the things that us beautiful mystics have around us. But because I was spending so much time in my head trying to figure it out, and my heart was just expanding, like, oh, I want to do more in this world to support humanity, and
Yes.
it just, and then of course the questions of how, it was like just be in your body. So my advice would be do the things that bring you joy, because the things that bring you joy, the things that bring you back into your physical bodies, the things that make you laugh and play and have fun and feel good
Yes.
are important. It's not that you're just having a great night out with the girls. You're literally connecting with your friends. It's not that you found some beautiful practice that, or yoga practice or any practice for that matter, running, but that you are shifting your energy to a place that it can flow, and it has got to flow through the body. It's the reason
Yeah.
why our bodies break down so often. So go find the things that bring you joy. And the more of them that can be physical and fun, the better. Be like a kid. Get out
Mm.
in nature.
Yes, yes, yes,
Nature
yes.
is huge. Ground, sit with the sun. There are a lot of simple things that I think in our busyness and our hurriedness we've forgotten about,
And
and
are available to all of us
always
at ease.
available to us.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
This is great insight, Darieth, and it's the perfect segue to the next part of the conversation because yes, to be in the body is not easy for many of us because, again, of what we went through in life. We protected ourselves by disconnecting with what we felt in our bodies. And so, yes, the solution is to be grounded, embodied in our bodies. And it's not that simple. In fact, that's a lot of what I share in my book, Remembering Her, A Soul Embodiment Journey, because I share part of my journey of how I moved from not being able to connect to the body and to being embodied in the body. And it's interesting because I want to move the conversation into two more topics that I know we can fit before we finish the show. And one is, you mentioned earlier how as you began moving beyond when pushing no longer worked, you began moving into the 4D. And you said, I began accessing things in 4D, which is such a big conversation that people don't quite understand. What is 4D? What is 5D? What is 3D? 3D, I think we understand a little bit better. So embodied, grounded in the body, feeling nature, feeling the feelings and the joy and feeling all the feels, that's in the body. And then we're talking about 5D, but we're not talking about four. It's almost like we skipped from three to four, but from three to five. But four is key, is the stepping stone to get us there. So first, I'm going to give you the two questions and I can repeat them. The first one is, can you speak to an understanding of how 4D plays a role to be able to access 5D? And the second question that you may want to tie in there, that's why I want to give it to you right now, is how, if at all, is that related to our ability to open up as a channel and connect with our spiritual gifts?
Yeah,
That's a big conversation.
It's a huge conversation, and I'll try and make it as simple and practical as
Yes,
I
please.
possibly can, because I mean, who can explain consciousness and dimensions?
In 5 minutes,
In
please.
5 minutes, add that, right? So I'll do my level best. By the way, in the gathering room, there's a free map of dimensional consciousness. So while we're going to do our level best to have this conversation, that map has a great detail and a video that explains it. But and this is, again, in terms of my understanding, not just from what I've channeled and received, and frankly, I remember, but part of it is that I've been studying consciousness and this whole idea of what does it mean to really expand our awareness for many years before I began to experience it. And it was always intellectual. So for me, it became much more embodied through all of the cracking and the breaking and the up and the down and the in and the out. So it serves its purpose. I just wanted to go back to say that these journeys that we're having that maybe feel uncomfortable are actually happening for us.
Absolutely.
To step into a grander awareness of who we are. So in that, as we move through these dimensions, and you don't go anywhere, so it isn't so much that, it's just your awareness is able to interpret not only just a different sense and energy that you are operating in and frequency, but of what is occurring. And so we've talked about 3D. 4D is, I call it the transformational phase. It's where you can fix it, process it, you read about it, do affirmations. It's the whole personal development thing that I think most of us went through and have been privy to. And many times you can stay looped in there because there's always something to fix. There's always something to look at. There's always some. So the pathway out of 4 into 5D, and 5D is what I would describe is where pure love exists. It is the place where we are operating at a frequency where we're not disconnected from anything. We see ourselves as connected to all. We have an overriding sense of joy and bliss and freedom and sovereignty. And getting to 5D and staying in 5D is that next piece on the path because it's going to happen. I really, it's inevitable that as you are awakening, you're also awakening into higher states of consciousness.
Yeah.
Out of 4D into 5 is drop the judgment. It's the judgment of everything that keeps us locked back into older frequencies. Because once you start judging, then you need to figure it out, blame, process it, all the things, and you begin to loop.
And judgment brings you into duality. I'm right, you're
completely,
wrong. It brings
right?
you all the way down.
And you got to look for all the things where in 5D you really, it's like, oh, wait a second, maybe this was supposed, you said it earlier, we're actually where we're supposed to be. It's like,
Yeah.
wait a second, it's really, what? I'm actually, you can look, like you literally, like, you know, it starts to happen because you start to slow down and you start to embody more and you can see the prosperity in your life and in your path and what's happened. And it is an experiential thing. Like I can
Yeah.
explain it till the cows come home, but until you actually feel it and know it and begin to live it
I
is,
love it.
is great. And then, and I won't get into because of time, but my map and what I've been living in and exploring and sharing is what does it mean to live beyond 5D, 5D through 8D? And you asked the question about channeling, which is, we're both channelers, and mine came through about 4 years ago, and I've been working with it and absolutely enjoy the experience of it. But I found it in stillness. I literally, it was through
Yeah.
just really still. Now, it was, I was having a plant medicine ceremony at the time when I started speaking light language, but I don't have that happen every single day, but I'm able to be with my guides every single day because I continue to tune my instrument
Yeah.
through through what I call 7D stillness, seventh dimensional stillness and awareness. And that allows you to open into perception and field and intuition that all of us have. We all have
Yeah.
innate gifts. And
We're
many of us
wired for it.
we are wired for it. We're seeing many more people. They're like all of a sudden they've got healing abilities, psychic abilities, reading abilities. They've all been here. They're just not covered anymore.
Yeah.
And and just to, it's like, and then once you start playing in those higher dimensions, oh, it's like, okay, that journey was worth it. This is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Thank you for that share. Yes, I'm not going to add to that. I'm going to continue with this. We move through 3D, 4D, 5D, 4D, 3D, 4D, 5D in the day, during a day. We are not yet living in 5D all the time in bliss. And it's a journey where we are on all layers, right? And we dance between those. And I want to underline what you just said about we are all wired to be able to experience our gifts fully, to be that open channel. There's so many layers to that because there's a lot of fear to that. There's a lot of conditioning to that. There's a lot of judgment of that. And so that also holds us back from fully experiencing it. And what I want to say is if you who are listening, you feel that you want to hone those gifts, that you do want to have them come online more, what Darieth just shared with us is golden. Stillness is the place to find that. And meditation, 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 which is such kindergarten 101 advice, but so basic, is a way in which we build the muscle to be in stillness and to be able to have a training where we become masters of our mind. Because the mind is like a monkey, it's always there. And if we don't learn how to put the mind in its own place and say, you're a beautiful tool. I don't want to demonize the mind. The mind is amazing, but I'm the master of the mind. I'm the witness, the soul incarnated in the body, the master of the mind. I'm not subdued by the mind. But unfortunately, for many of us in the daily world, we live subdued by the mind. The mind goes back and forth, is crazy thinking, looping, and on this day and age with social media and all the overwhelming amount of information coming to us, our mind is going crazy, full of stimulation. So to be able to master that quiet space is key for any experience you may want to have of expansion of your own life, of expression of your authentic self, and of experiencing the joy of being a potent co-creator with life. So I want to recap a little bit because we had so many golden nuggets here. And I want to say how grateful I am to have been able to have this conversation with you, Darieth. So much more fun than alone, particularly these topics. So we spoke about this experience we all have had, and many of us are still having, and you may have had at a different level, and you now have it at a higher level of your own journey. This experience where pushing no longer works, and how that is a gift of the universe because it obligates you to look at what is not working, course correct, or make different choices so that you can live a life with more ease, where you're not putting so much effort in everything, and where you have found that sweet spot where you're aligning with what the universe wants for you and what you want for yourself, and co-creating in unity with that. So we spoke about that path, how that looked like for Darieth, how that looked like for me, and then that took us into how we feel when we're about to take major steps, the fear, the resistance, and how do we deal with that, and what do we do with those moments in which we are uncertain on how to move forth. And Darieth, you gave us beautiful shares about how to allow that part of your life to express through actually even simple things like allowing yourself to spend time with your childlike self, in joy, in play, in nature, in the body, and how the body is feeling and tuning in, and also in stillness, in that meditative space where we make room to listen to the higher self, however you want to call it, universe, creator, our own higher self. But all of that wisdom speaks to us in whispers. So if we don't find stillness, we can't listen to what's coming in because it's overridden by all the noise that we live in a very noisy world. And then from there, Darieth, this share of how our gifts come online and how we all are wired to have them come online. And I want to add to that that the Egyptians knew this very well. And in the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus, which you can see everywhere, that's actually a depiction of a transversal cut of our brain where they explain exactly why our pineal gland works in tune with our pituitary gland, so that they are the mystical antenna through which we can have the experience of channeling. So we literally, biologically, we have a physical antenna inside of our bodies. And that tells me that just like the nose for inhaling breath, it's meant for us to be a channeler. So for you, the question is, are you leaning into being a channel? Are you a channel already, but you're not gaining full clarity? You're not trusting your own channel? Keep at it, keep adding spaces of silence and stillness until you keep honing that. And of course, I am here for you. I've helped people for more than 10 years now with a 40-year path of helping people do this, finding their own wisdom and their own journey and activating your own channeling. And here's Darieth, which can you tell us again, Darieth, how can people meet you, where they can find you, but also please leave us your golden nugget.
Yeah, yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I pulled the Horus card.
Oh, I love it. Show
You're
us.
talking about Horus. I'm like, okay, always with us, right? Like seriously. And that's it. That's it. Like that's the beautiful part, the mystical part. That's really fun.
The
Yeah,
alignment, the
yes,
synchronicities. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, my website, Darieth.com, but for this in particular, it's awakeningtheprosperoushuman.com. You'll learn about the gathering room. You can read more about the map. You can join us there for conversation, and you'll be on the list for the book when it comes out. So we would love
Wonderful.
to have you be there. My guides are also there channeling, so I'm really happy about that. The consortium is such a beautiful, benevolent stream of intelligence and wisdom that is present, and so I absolutely enjoy it. Listen, folks, we got one life. We're in it. It's not going anywhere. It's not a dress rehearsal. We're in it. We are in potent times, and the momentum that is here for us is glorious. And you can fall into this and literally, you don't have to be perfect. Just trust the process,
Yeah.
trust yourself, and trust your own wisdom.
Yes, trust the process, trust yourself, and trust your own wisdom. Whoa. Thank you, Darieth, for that. That's the perfect mic drop for the closing of this episode. And for all of you listeners, thank you for being here. Thank you, Darieth, for your beautiful shares and wisdom and golden nuggets. And you know where you can find her. And of course, you can listen to this episode in every podcast that's out there, in YouTube, on my website, on the Talk Transformation Network. Go share it with your friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Darieth. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining me, Shakti Bottazzi, on the Soul Wisdom Project, remembering the living blueprint of the soul. Tune in every first and third Tuesday each month at 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Continue your journey of conscious embodiment, integrating the design, development, and emergence of your divine blueprint. Deepen your exploration through my book, Remembering Her, A Soul Embodiment Journey, and discover mentoring and retreats at theawakenpath.com. Healing is possible. Your journey is sacred design in motion. To put overwhelm in your past, contact me at www.theawakenpath.com. Stay awake, stay aligned, and keep living your soul's wisdom. See you next time.